See, this is a good place to start. So, yeah, so Hasan actually got wrecked. Like this is some crazy shit.
If you're seeing this, that means I've probably been banned. That's right. Cancel culture has finally come for me. Oh my God, it's over. It's over. The free speech warriors. Where are you now? They've taken me out, ladies and gentlemen. It's over. I'm done. A couple days ago, I had a conversation where I was responding to the Republican House of Representatives Speaker, and I said some things. Let's take a look at what I said. Libs of TikTok, of course, posted about it. Here's what Libs of TikTok claimed I was saying. Hassan Parker just called for violence against a sitting U.S. senator. If you cared about Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott at FBI. This got 17,000 likes. It was on February 28th. Let's take a look at this clip really quickly.
There's about $50 billion estimated that are lost every year in Medicaid just in fraud alone. Nope.
If you
For anybody who doesn't know Hasan, like, I don't know him. I wouldn't mind doing a stream with him one day. He's way out of my league though, so I'm not even gonna fucking try it. But basically, he literally recently did a bit where he was like, because of this, he was like, sorry, we're not doing the political stuff. We're not political. And he put on a MAGA hat and he's like, oh, by the way, the gays are probably gonna burn in hell. Probably not. You know, I'm just saying. We're not political on this show anymore. He's an edgelord. He's very hyperbolic. He does say, like, even like the part about how like 9/11 was an act of resistance. I don't know the full context around that, but I have a feeling he was being edgy. You know, like people really get mad at Hasan over like the dumbest shit. And now this is just the latest drama of him being banned from Twitch for being hyperbolic. Like, what the hell?
you cared about
And
Medicaid.
Osmond Gold basically was like, yeah, no, you're doing a call to violence. It's like, oh, yeah, that, okay, whatever. He literally was like, if you actually cared, you would blah, blah, blah. Right? Okay. You know what a call to violence is? A call to violence is basically something along the lines of, we're going to do this to this person at this time, at this day, be there and be ready. That would be a call to action. That would be a call to violence. He did not call violence to anybody, and you're kind of dumb if you think that. Like, how can you be held? You can't be held. Like, that's not a thing. So, yeah. Like, oh my goodness. Like, people get mad at him over the dumbest shit. Even streamers I respect. Like, they could do a lot to like not shit so much on someone for being a little on the edgy side just because they happen to be, you know, say a few things that are, you know, like a little too pro-Palestine, for example. You know, just God forbid anybody be too pro-Palestine with the fact that Israel has literally been committing a genocide against them. And sure, they got the ceasefire going, but it's like, I don't remember the whole story, but I don't remember if Israel honoring the ceasefire. Hamas postpones next hostage. It said the move serves as, well, first of all, you're CNN, fuck off. Did Israel violate the ceasefire? Yes. Okay, here we go. I trust these people more than I would trust someone like fucking CNN. Hamas says it will halt its captive releases until Israel complies with the terms of the ceasefire agreed between them. Hamas says Israel's ceasefire violations reached the point that it would no longer hold up its end of the bargain. And what, like, I think I remember hearing something about how now Israel is literally invading the West Bank. Let me just fact check that real quick. Is the IDF invading the West Bank now? Yep. As an assault on occupied West Bank intensifies, so the Israeli military has launched several new raids across the occupied West Bank, intensifying a month-long operation that has killed hundreds of people and displaced thousands. This was just this month. So yeah, no, Israel's not honoring the ceasefire. So spare me any sort of fucking sympathy for how for whatever the fuck Hasan says in regards to the Palestine conflict. And forgive me if I'm not crying, because he said that Al-Qaeda did an act of resistance. Like, you gonna come after me now? Like, oh my God, grow up, people.
Fraud or Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott. Okay, you wouldn't make Rick Scott, former governor of Florida, Rick Scott, you wouldn't make him a prominent part of the Republican Party. Now, that seems like a wild thing to say. Oh my God, is this person calling for the death of a U.S. senator? Of course not. I was not calling for the assassination of a U.S. senator. So I went back to figure out the context. Here it is. Let's take a look.
Are people who are covered by Medicaid now going to potentially lose Medicaid coverage as a result of this?
No, look, the White House has made a commitment. The president said over and over and over, we're not going to touch Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid. We've made the same commitment. Now, that said, what we are going to do is go into those programs and carve out the fraud, waste, and abuse and find efficiencies. A couple of examples. You know, there's about $50 billion estimated that are lost every year in Medicaid just in fraud alone. Nope.
That fraud is not coming from individuals. It's coming from providers. They're not tackling providers. They're not actually going after like false billing. They are trying to cut recipients. If you cared about Medicare fraud or Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott. The reason why I'm saying if you cared about Medicare or Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott is because, and not make him a prominent part of the Republican Party, is because he to this day is still known as committing the largest Medicare fraud in U.S. history. They want to cut SNAP. They want to cut Medicaid.
Yeah, and not to mention how many times or how many people has his Medicaid fraud actually, you know, like how many people has his fraud actually killed? Like, I'd be interested. Like, what kind of fraud? No, because I think we still no. It says Google. What kind of fraud did Rick Scott engage in? Company defrauded Medicare, Medicaid, and other federal departments. U.S. Department of Justice won 14 felony convictions against the company, which was fined $1.4 billion. What kind of Medicare fraud did Rick Scott engage in? Rick Scott was in New York, yes, blah, 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 and reminding everyone that he oversaw the largest Medicare fraud in history. Scott misstated, blah, blah, blah. See below for a roundup of coverage. Trump, let's see. What did it say here? Rick Scott suggests he was persecuted over giant Medicare fraud. No, Florida Democratic Party. Y'all were a bunch of wine asses anyway, closing out your Democratic primary. You're personally responsible. You aided and abetted Trump getting elected. So, yeah, I would assume any fraud that involves the healthcare system is probably going to result in the deaths of tens of thousands of people. So, once again, fuck you if you got upset at his little comment there.
They want to cut the funding of Medicaid. They want to make it harder for people to receive Medicaid. They don't want to actually go after medical providers or the insurance companies or the nursing homes that are lining their pockets with major donations. Those are the people who actually engage in the fraud. It's not your uncle that's like lying about their condition and stealing money from the government by, you know, going to the doctor or whatever. Okay, so obviously I should have used hyperbolic language, and there's definitely some ownership that I must take. Some apologies there. I should not have said Mike Johnson should kill Rick Scott. I should have simply said Mike Johnson should punish Rick Scott, perhaps with the...
Listen, I have to take Kyle's stance on this. I understand he's trying to be the better person, and he's trying to be unironic in this video, but no, like, you being hyperbolic is completely fine. Like, if you're gonna be hyperbolic, be as hyperbolic as you want to. They talk about killing trans people all the fucking time. They talk about killing leftists all the fucking time. And they're gonna take you down because you said a boo-boo about Rick Scott. Like, they're being hypocrites, Hasan. You're not, like, I agree with Kyle. Like, you're not doing anything wrong here. They talk like that about the left all the fucking time.
You know, maximum punishment, whatever that would be, for defrauding Medicare and Medicaid for over $1.7 billion. Now let's talk about the things that he did in this process. Because Rick Scott co-founded the Columbia Hospital Corporation, which later merged to a corporation known as Columbia/HCA, which eventually became the nation's largest for-profit healthcare company. Rick Scott, who of course also looks like Voldemort, did a lot of things. The company defrauded Medicare, Medicaid, and other federal programs. The U.S. Department of Justice won 14 felony convictions against the company, which was fined $1.7 billion in what was at the time the largest healthcare fraud settlement in United States history.
HCA was defrauding the government.
HCA admitted to things like submitting
inflated bills and exaggerating diagnoses to increase Medicare reimbursements.
According to federal
Oh yeah, to increase Medicare reimbursements, and you know what happens? People go into massive amounts of debt. People learn to avoid hospitals, and it leads to deaths systemically. Yeah. So you know, if he's this guy, this monster is going to do shit that's going to kill thousands of people. Spare me your tears. Spare me your conservative tears. Is it okay to say conservative tears? Can I say conservative tears?
investigators, the hospital company systematically defrauded Medicare, Medicaid, and other federal healthcare programs while paying kickbacks to its physicians. Scott, of course, denied any wrongdoing.
Scott pled the fifth 75 times to avoid jail for Medicare fraud.
He didn't go to jail over this. He didn't even get any punishments over this. And Scott's resignation certainly was fantastic. For his pockets, he walked away with $10 million in severance pay, a 5-year consulting contract, and $300 million in stock and options. He is now the wealthiest member of the United States Senate. Rick Scott also in the past apologized, took ownership seemingly over his actions. But since then, in his endless interest in gutting all of these social safety nets so the American poor suffer more, Rick Scott has actually seemingly turned around and thinks that this was political prosecution, pure political prosecution against him.
I'm fed up. I watched what happened to me and my company. I watched what's happening.
Yeah, something that basically could lead to deaths and medical bankruptcy. Yeah, you're being persecuted. Sure. We all know who's really guilty here. It's Rick Scott. Hasan didn't do anything. All right, where was the thing? Why did I post that one? Oh, I remember. That was last time. Wait, this was... I thought I posted the thing about climate change on here. And I do want to go over that in a moment, though. The Republicans coming after gay marriage thing. I do want to go over that momentarily. But I thought I posted it on Blue Sky, and now I have to go through my climate change. What was it? What was it? I think it was... We were wrong about... Wait, did I post it in the Discord chat? Or in Discord content? Oh no, I keep going fucking dark on Discord. Shit. Okay, let me... We were wrong about climate change. What we got wrong? We have climate change predictions, been some climate okay. I think it was this one. Yeah, climate change models are getting it wrong. What's going on? So
here's a bit of history for you. Way back in 1896, a Swedish scientist by the name of Svante Arrhenius looked at all the smoke being produced by the Industrial Revolution that was in full swing at the time and did some experiments.
If I recall correctly, I think this video was saying that it's actually way worse than all our models have predicted, and they're getting it way wrong. So this is concerning. I do want to go over this. This is important.
Suggested the carbon dioxide in that smoke could be causing a reaction in the planet's atmosphere that would result in global surface temperature increases. Who'd have thought it? 1896.
Yeah, it is this channel.
By the 1950s, scientists like Gilbert Plass had started to use early computers to study atmospheric CO2 effects, and the now famous Charles David Keeling of the Scripps Institute set up a monitoring station at the top of Mauna Loa on the Big Island of Hawaii to start taking accurate annual readings of the ebbs and flows of atmospheric CO2 concentrations at one of the highest pollution-free locations on the planet. In the 1960s, two very smart science bots called Siyokuro Manabe and Richard Weatherall developed one of the first numerical climate models that simulated how increasing CO2 could impact global temperatures. 10 years later, that work morphed into the much more sophisticated general circulation models, which had the state-of-the-art computers of the day, adding a bunch of additional real-world variables to represent oceanic and atmospheric dynamics. Modern climate models are, of course, driven by supercomputers that crunch through unimaginable quantities of data and calculations to mimic the complex interactions between the atmosphere, the oceans, our continental land masses, the planet's enormous stores of ice, and our own human activities. And despite all this, despite fully understanding the basic physics for 129 years, and despite the mind-blowing acceleration of computer processing power in recent times, The empirical evidence taken from field research around the world now tells us that even the very best models we currently have available are woefully underestimating the speed and severity of change in our planet's climate, which means our global leaders have been making poorly informed decisions for several decades. So what the hell's going on? Hello, and welcome to Just Have a Think. Now, I think it's fair to say we've all had a good dollop of climate information foisted upon us in recent years, haven't we? Most of us, for example, are well aware of scientific warnings about polar ice melt and global sea level rise and extreme heat waves and droughts and floods and areas of the planet that will be uninhabitable to human beings in the very near future. All very sobering. But at least here in the comfortable West, just not quite setting us on fire enough or getting our feet wet enough or making our stomachs hungry enough to engender a mass demand for emergency action. There are even some people, and honestly, you won't believe this, there are even some people who are saying the whole climate change thing is a hoax.
All of this with the global warming and that, a lot of it's a hoax. It's a hoax. I mean, it's a money-making industry, okay? It's a hoax.
I know, mental. But if the latest data are to be believed, which they probably should be, then the next few decades look like they could be far worse and far more randomly destructive than the world's most powerful climate models are predicting. So are these climate models completely useless then? Well, no, not really. In fact, they're some of the most sophisticated machines on Earth, and they're actually very good at predicting broad climate trends. Scientists know that because they can ask the models to tell us what the climate should have been like going back in history based on known parameters, and then compare the model's results with what actually happened based on real-world data that was recorded at the time. And when they do that, they get a...
See, that's one of the things that, like, don't ever believe, like, these so-called climate skeptics when they say, oh, but the globe it always warms, it always... Because it's like, yeah, okay, cool. And it's that fact where we also have models where we can compare the warming now versus the warming then, and the warming now is not exactly on par with the warming then, and that's where a lot of their dishonesty actually gets kicked in the ass. So, you know, just figured I'd add that interjection there. So, totally a political point to be made, but the reason egg prices are so high is because of aliens. That is true. That is fucking true. Like, aliens, right? So Martians, you know, they're so expensive because the way we actually get eggs is through a very sophisticated surgical procedure in which you remove a Martian egg from a human chest. Because if you don't remove that egg from the human chest, what happens is that egg will eventually hatch, and the baby will burst out of the person's chest. And then it will put on a top hat and a cane, and it'll go down the aisle singing, "Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal." Okay. All right, I watched too much Mel Brooks. All right, let's move on.
Remarkably accurate correlation. The trouble is that warming an atmosphere across an entire planet as complex and complicated and so rich in variety as the one we're lucky to live on doesn't result in broadly homogeneous weather patterns in all areas. The dynamics of cloud systems, for example, are extremely difficult to model in any kind of granular detail, and currently at least pretty much impossible to model on any kind of timeline that's longer than your local weather forecast. And yet clouds have a major bearing on the amount of heat that's either reflected back into space or blanketed down onto the Earth's surface on any given day in any given location. So it's a pretty chaotic system, at least from the point of view of...
See, the way I wish people understood how climate change works. The reason we call it the greenhouse effect is because if you've ever been in a greenhouse, which I have, they are fucking hot. During the summer, hotter inside than it is the outside. You know why? Because all that plastic traps in that sunlight, which traps in the heat. It's why they tell you to keep your windows closed and your blinds blacked out, or your windows blacked out during the hottest summer months if you don't have air conditioning. Because all that sunlight, if any of it gets into your house, it will heat the place up. And if you're in a climate where it gets to 90 degrees, 100 degrees, 110 degrees, that's gonna fucking kill you. So you need to, like, here where I'm from, the temperatures get to around like between 80 and 90 degrees, and even that's unbearable. So like outside the temperature probably gets to like 93 outside, and in here I could see, like, thankfully I have fans, but I could see temperatures indoors, according to the thermostat, as high as 85. That's not a thing anymore because we've been buying the hell out of air conditioning. But it's really important that you know, that this shit is tackled. So, like, Yeah, so let's continue.
With a number crunching computer. There are hotspots of extreme weather events like those heat waves, storms and floods that I mentioned earlier, and in some parts of the world, things are already getting to the pointy end of dangerous, and people are losing their lives and livelihoods. This paper, for example, published in November 2024, highlights what it calls a rise in regional heatwave hotspots that is outpacing the simulations. The researchers found that on every continent except Antarctica, extreme heat was increasing significantly and faster in magnitude than what state-of-the-art climate models have predicted under present warming, even after...
You hear that? Let's listen to that again. Let's listen to that one more time.
This paper, for example, published in November 2024, highlights what it calls a rise in regional heatwave hotspots that is outpacing the simulations.
Outpacing the simulations. That means the data on the heat index going up over time, that's outpacing what we were predicting. So they say this shit's gonna be a disaster in 2100? I don't think so. We might see that in our lifetimes. I might be just approaching my retirement age when shit goes down. Like, this is concerning.
The researchers found that on every continent except Antarctica, extreme heat was increasing significantly and faster in magnitude than what state-of-the-art climate models have predicted under present warming, even after accounting for their regional summer background warming. And it turns out it's not just geographically specific climate events that our climate models are not well equipped to predict either. It's also short-term spikes like the one we seem to be experiencing right now. The conclusion of this paper's authors is, unsurprisingly, that a much better understanding of the drivers of these extreme events is urgently needed so that they can be factored into updated models. Oh, and by the way, they say, it might be a good idea to up the ante on the old mitigation work as well. In other words, stop burning fossil fuels and stop destroying country-sized areas of...
And are we going to stop burning fossil fuels? No. The country voted drill, baby, drill. Yeah, that's a lot of it. A lot of why Trump won. Drill, baby, drill. Americans do not want to stop climate change. We are the industrial capital of the world, and we hate life. We hate everything. We are currently trying to erase trans people, which more on that later. And we are also, like, it's a nightmare. What kind of country that the people here, it's just crazy being American and knowing that other Americans are like this. Like, they want to see their fellow Americans be erased from society just because they're gay, just because they're trans, just because they're black. Blaming fucking fire in California on a black lesbian. Like, are you serious right now? Like, this is what I'm talking about. Why I say Hasan didn't do anything wrong. You're literally gonna blame the California wildfire on a black lesbian? The fuck is wrong with you? Unironically, what the fuck is wrong with you? You're gonna incite this what is called stochastic terrorism, which, by the way, she was found murdered. Was it murder or suicide? Found murdered. Yeah, no, she was stabbed to death. Is that her? I think so. All right, my bad. I thought she was a black lesbian. Turns out she was just a yeah, I think she was yeah. I thought it was all right. Yeah, no. So Rebecca Marodi. She, like, I can't read this. This is... Maybe the stereotype was that, oh, like, it was a... I don't fucking know. You hear this stupid shit all the time. It's just so ridiculous. Everything's black people's fault. Everything's lesbians' fault. Everything's bisexual people's fault. It's so childish. I thought we were past this. I thought we were fucking past this. Captain with the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection told her wife, yeah, she's a lesbian. She did not want to die. Yolanda Marodi responded, "You should have thought about that before," according to an affidavit in... Alright. Pled for her life with the woman now wanted in connection with her death. Told her wife. Wait, I'm so confused. What the hell? Yeah, okay, her wife. So yeah, she is Yolanda Marodi. So she was killed by her wife? Why? The video showed Yolanda Marodi, 53, chasing Rebecca Marodi, 49, and holding a knife. Rebecca Marodi told her wife of roughly 2 years that she planned on ending their marriage. Oh. Okay. The video showed Rebecca Marodi repeatedly asking her wife to call 911. Okay. But yeah, so yeah, alright, so it wasn't because of the stochastic terrorism, but a lot of, yeah, so it looks like it was mostly a domestic issue that resulted because she wanted a divorce. And so that led to her being stabbed, which I think is really pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter. That's not voluntary. That's murder. That's second degree. 2003. But that's fatal stabbing. Once again, that is murder. That is... She should not have even been out. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck? You're literally gonna stab someone, a partner, to death, and you're just gonna be guilty of voluntary manslaughter? Like, no, you should have been booked. You should have been done for. You should have been dunzos. Like, holy fucking shit. But either way, that's just a little extra side point for the fact that the firefighter, one of the firefighters that was involved with trying to fight the fire, like, she, like, people like her were basically scapegoated and said that the wildfire was their fucking fault. Although I may have, maybe there was because they did say a lot of shit about black lesbians, and so therefore I assumed that that was what this case was. But no, yeah, a lot of shit about DEI, you know, it's black people's fault, it's gay people's fault, it's trans people's fault, although the gay people, not so much. In fact, so far the gays seem to be, well, not completely fine. As I told you, we're going to have another segment about that one coming up. But, yeah, no, so, like, you can blame everything that's happening on DEI and fucking trans people all you fucking want, but you ain't gonna be thinking about trans people when all the fucking water's gone, you MAGA dipshits. The fuck is wrong with you? Like, how are you this stupid?
Land-based ecosystems every year, so we can start dramatically reducing the amount of carbon dioxide and methane and other
gonna,
greenhouse gases.
I'll be right back. I'm gonna go get myself some sparkling
In
water.
the meantime, though, governments and corporations and city planners and public health officers and the farmers who grow our food are all starting to demand pinpoint accuracy of how the climate in their specific region is likely to change in the coming years. Two of the best-known exponents of global climate research are Gavin Schmidt, director of NASA's Goddard Institute for Space Studies, and Zeke Hausfather, who's a research scientist at Berkeley Earth. In a recent article that they co-wrote for the New York Times, the two experts addressed the unpredicted and largely unexplained jump in global temperatures that started in mid-2023 and discussed how climate research needs to up its game to keep pace with an increasingly turbulent planet. Schmidt and Hausfather point out that climate science research generally works on 7-year cycles to produce reports that summarise long-term trends. The data being used for the latest round of climate modelling are based on observations that ran up to 2014, so they're missing a whole bunch of recent variables like COVID and the desulfurization of marine freight shipping and even volcanic eruptions. So right now there's a big gap between what the models can provide and what policymakers and the public are demanding. Essentially, climate models are very good at...
Did I hear that that last point right? Hang on a second.
Generally works on 7-year cycles to produce reports that summarise long-term trends. The data being used for the latest round of climate modelling are based on observations that ran up to 2014. So they're missing a whole bunch of recent variables like COVID and the desulfurization of marine freight shipping and even volcanic eruptions. So right now there's a big gap.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so whatever the models are predicting, I guess that is true. They're kind of missing those very important variables, which will also massively... You see, with volcanic eruptions, let's see, what else is there? We remain far from... So, alright. Many partial new low sulfur fuel standards for marine shipping. A volcanic eruption in 2022. Oh, yeah. You see, the volcanic eruption in 2022 by itself would not lead to very much. It really wouldn't. But when you have carbon dioxide, which acts as a fucking heat source, and then you add the ash from a volcanic eruption, it kind of multiplies the effect, doesn't it? Like, doesn't it have that much of an effect on you know what I mean? Like, doesn't it have that kind of effect where the CO2 and the ash kind of trap more and more heat? God damn it. That's the one thing I hate about sparkling water. It fucking fills you with carbon dioxide, which I know, I'm a hypocrite. Here I am shitting on people for climate change and I just burped. I know. I'm bad. I'm sorry. I'll never do it again. Excuse me. Okay.
Between what the models can provide and what policymakers and the public are demanding. Essentially, climate models are very good at giving us general information about long-term trends and very poorly equipped to provide short-term warnings about extreme events where people live. In a recent interview with Zoe Schreiner for the online journal The Atlantic, Gavin Schmidt explained that current models work at a resolution of about 100 square kilometres per pixel. Reducing that down to something like 1 square kilometre per pixel, he said, would require like 100,000 times more computation than we currently have.
Jeez.
So what's the solution, I hear you ask? Well, that's a very good question. According to the New York Times op-ed, we need more comprehensive and faster data gathering from satellites, in-situ measurements and economic statistics converted by analysts for the climate and weather models. And then all the labs around the world need to use that data to update their simulations every year instead of every 4 years, as is often the case at the moment. That's a lot of work. But Schmidt and Hauspartner reckon the goal of analysing data in under 6 months is achievable if the data gathering and climate modelling labs prioritise it. The only caveat to that is that it would require a concerted and coordinated effort from US agencies like the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, and the Department of Energy, alongside international agencies like Copernicus here in Europe. And I don't know if you've spotted this, but those agencies in the US don't appear to be receiving quite the level of support under the new administration that they enjoyed in previous years. So whether such an increase in funding and resources will be...
Yep. Trump having all these agencies lose their funding for political reasons. Yeah, we're not gonna... I'd be surprised if we even know anything further about climate change going forward. I feel like Trump is gonna try to... I feel like they're gonna do everything in their power to like make absolutely sure that you know that everything's fine and that the sky is not falling and that trees are not burning in California. I know the sky is not falling is definitely a very ironic thing to put in there, but yeah, no, the sky is falling, guys. And the Trump administration is going to try to tell you it's not, so don't listen to them.
Forthcoming.
After all, it falls every day on a rainy day. Yeah, like, no, okay, so the atmosphere is literally just water vapor and other gases. Alright, so some water vapor gets into the air, condenses into clouds, and then all of a sudden that falls back down to the earth. So yeah, it's not too strange to, you know, that the sky is literally falling all the time everywhere, but yeah, no, the sky is falling. Alright, so climate change, it's getting worse, it's getting bad, and our models are way behind, and, you know, climate change could be here way sooner than we anticipated. So with that, I am going to end this segment right here. I can't believe I don't know. I think I might just do Hasan and this in one segment just because I kind of, you know... Basically, this, whatever. Anyway, so if you enjoyed this segment, feel free to like and subscribe, and feel free to catch me every Tuesday at 7 to 9 p.m. Subscribe and abonne, and au revoir à tous.